one of our batches has probably 350 to 700 pounds of grain. So the grain comes up the flex auger and gets dropped down in the mash tun. This is the combi tank, so this is your hot liquor tank down here, that's your mash tun. And as the grain is being dropped up into the mash tun, there's something called a grist hydrator up there that takes some of the water from the hot liquor tank and adds it to the grain as it's going in to prevent dough balls from forming. If you really want to get all the grain wet, as much surface area as possible, if you get the maximum amount of sugar extraction. And so Mark was up there furiously stirring to make sure that that didn't happen. And so now, how long do we mash with this beer?
An hour.
We'll mash, and that's pretty typical.
Yeah.
You don't mash
if
more
your
than an
home
hour.
mash will be about an hour.
When we first started, we would just weigh into buckets with have you ever seen those little luggage scales? That's what we were dealing with, and then we stand above the mash tun, and this is actually a lot nicer than we used to have it. When you're done mashing, you recirculate all the wort from the mash tun through the wort ground. What that does is it'll draw down all the wort through the grains that are in the kettle, and then it has kind of a filtering effect. So that's why you have the sight glass there. You can look in and see the clarity of the beer as you're going. And that doesn't take more than 20 minutes, right?
Right, yeah, get it to it.
But basically when you notice that your beer is nice and bright and clear, that's when it's ready to go over to the boil kettle. So what you end up with in this tank is this nice bed, compacted bed of grain. That all goes out the door, we let it drain, and that all goes out the door to local farmers. So after boil, it runs through this heat exchanger, and we turn on the oxygen. You can see down there we've got cold water running one way and hot water running the other. Monitor the temperature right here. The beer is getting oxygenated before it goes in the tank with that valve being opened. Again, we're monitoring with the sight glass to make sure it's nice and bright and it's coming out the way it ought to be. And then it gets pumped over here to the cold side fermenters, which are ready to go, all sanitized and clean. Each beer goes through a slightly different process, but usually you're looking at 1 to probably 2.5 weeks. Of course, some beers are dry hopped, some sit a little bit longer at certain temperatures, but these tanks are all jacketed. So there's glycol running through them, which is that kind of fishbowl sound in the clicking on and off that you keep hearing. There are valves, temperature sensitive valves opening and shutting, and that panel over there controls everything. So once the beer's done, and we're monitoring the whole time, we're tasting, smelling, looking. So when the beer's done fermenting, we drop it down to 34 degrees, and everything literally drops out of the beer. It's called cold crashing. All the yeast goes dormant, sinks to the bottom, all the true So that's why you have a conical fermenter. So all of that gets drawn off. You try to avoid pumping up the truth and the yeast and all that stuff. But we dump as much of that as possible. We draw off the yeast and save it because we reuse our yeast as much as we can, which is great because it's actually the most expensive raw ingredient that goes into beer. So we keep a couple of different strains going. We use 2 in the beers. We tend to use an English ale yeast for all of the darker beers. And once that process is done and the beers where we want it to be, we transfer unfortunately, this is a really big bottleneck for us right now. We only have 1 bright tank, and every drop of beer has to go through this tank. For whatever reason, bright is the word brewers use to say clear. So one use of the bright tank is to further let that beer condition, the flavor can be stabilized, it'll clarify a little bit. The other use is to carbonate. We naturally carbonate as much as we can.